Arizona football falls in very disappointing fashion to Texas Tech, and there are a lot of questions that we need to talk about.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. This show is brought to you today by Gametime. Again, the great thing with Gametime is that you can use it for all kinds of different stuff. Check it out. Download the Gametime app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. All right, Arizona football against Texas Tech. We got to talk about the offense, which was downright offensive. At this point, I think it's fair to say that there's a lot of questions that I think you have to have about this staff. Now, Noah Fifita has not played great football. I obviously know that. He's been missing people. I get that. But one thing about it, though, I don't believe that Noah Fifita just forgot how to play football. When I look at this offensive staff, there are a lot of questions that I have. The first one is I don't know at all what their everything is slow from the plays to everything. Everything is slow, and there doesn't seem to be really a purpose. Those delayed handoffs, those have to stop. They don't make any sense whatsoever. Then the fades that keep getting called that where you're throwing it to like Montana in the end zone, he's not going to come up with that. He doesn't get separation. And it does also appear, too, that Noah's missing people, underneath. Now, I don't buy for a second that it's because of his size because, again, Noah was the same size last year. So that I don't believe. Obviously, I don't believe that was the case at all. But this is an issue, though. This is a big issue for Arizona. And Dino Babers, obviously the game had passed him by a long time ago. He was a bad hire. And then Matt Atkins, I guess it still looks a little bit better because at least they're moving the ball. But the problem is when they get into the 20, they stall. One thing too, I thought that he did a really, really poor job of staying with the run. Every time it felt like Arizona was just getting 7-8 yards per, then they would go away from it. I have no clue why that's the case. Then when it comes to the wide receivers, I'm out on Jeremiah Patterson. My bad on that one. I needed him to have a good game at some point. He's just not good enough. He is don't know really what else to say. Just not good enough. T-Mac. Listen, T-Mac is going to be a top 5 pick. You look in the drafts, he is going to be that guy. But his body language is bad right now. Watching him, you're like, man, is everything okay there? Because he's showing frustration. He's got a number of times now where he's going up to try to catch the ball with one hand as opposed to bringing it in with two. I get that sometimes you have to go with one hand, but it seems like he's just going for the flashy catch each time, and that's not going to work. That's not going to work a lot of the time. You got to sometimes just go with the safe pat or the safe catch, and that has not happened so far with Arizona, with T-Mac, and that's something that I think that we need to keep a very, very close eye on. He's obviously putting up numbers, but it just doesn't feel right. The offensive line, I don't know why some of the players that were coming in and out. Why is Ryan Stewart playing? Ryan Stewart just isn't good enough. I don't know what else to say. Ryan Stewart's just not good enough. There were some other guys too. When you've got a line, it's got to be Rhino, Jonah, Wendell Moy, Josh Baker, and Alexander Deuce. That's it. That's the 5. You don't need to put in anybody else. that's the 5 right there. You are giving the opponents too much good stuff if you don't if you have that offensive line. One thing about it, I got to give this team credit. The running game has been solid. So the people that are like, Arizona's really missing Jonah Coleman. I mean, yes and no. Jonah Coleman's really good, but Quali Conley has been more than good enough. So there's that. And then when Noah Fifita, I think you've got to get him a real coach. I don't believe that, I'm sure Lyle Malvo's a good guy. I get all that, but I don't know that he should be a quarterback coach. He's been an analyst. I don't know that is a recipe for success. Also, you've got to have, I think, a real offensive coordinator at this point. You're going to have to hire somebody this offseason that actually knows what they're doing. This staff has been, put it mildly. This staff has been very unimpressive on the offensive side of the football. Now, defensively, I think that there's a little bit, it's a little bit different. There's obviously been some bright spots, but the regression that this offense has shown has been absolutely astounding. I don't know. I really don't know what else to say. It's been incredibly disappointing. Now, one thing I think that you can look at and be like, okay, that's not the worst thing in the world is you've also got at least you're moving the ball. But the problem is you're not punching the ball in. And then you had some bad interceptions in this game. You had a couple bad turnovers. You can't just resort to Tyler Luke just making field goals left and right. You got to be able to punch the ball in. Arizona had a chance here, and Arizona ended up losing that game. Now, there has been a bright spot here. This is something that I think has been very cool that we need to talk about. But first, Game Time. Again, download the Game Time app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. All right. Cool thing with Game Time is this. You've got right now, you are in the heart of the NFL season. Everybody's looking for tickets. Everybody's looking for, good prices. Game Time says, come to us. We can help you with that. And again, know people that have had it happen. On top of that, you also know as well that with Game Time, there is a very good possibility that you will that you're going to find something. You're like, okay, cool. I didn't know that I had this one. Game Time is where it's at. Game Time has you covered. So again, download the Game Time app. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. You will thank me later. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, now let's talk about Dwayne Akina. Dwayne Akina is the man. The job that Dwayne Akina has done with this defense has been fantastic. It has been stellar. It has been exquisite. He continues to get better. The defense continues to get better. I think the first game against New Mexico, you're like, whoa, what is going on here? There was absolutely no contain. That was also the case against Kansas State. Well, against Utah and against Texas Tech, this defense has shown out, and it's shown out in a big way. There's been absolutely nothing that they haven't gotten better at. And I think that's what's exciting. If you're an Arizona fan, is that defensively, it does look like they have turned a corner. I think the concern is that the offense isn't nearly good enough to be able to pick up for it. But defensively, though, this is a squad that gets after it. Jacob Manu looks back to being Jacob Manu. I think with when it comes to some injuries, Arizona's been hit with some tough news of late, which is less than ideal. But the secondary, I think between Carnley, between Tacario Davis, between obviously Marquise Groves Killebrew, it's been good. And then the safeties, obviously, you're worried about Gunnar Maldonado. He went out. That would obviously be a big loss. But the secondary has played admirably, as has the linebackers. And the defensive line has been much better. Obviously, Isaiah Johnson, Stanley Taufo, Trey Smith, Ty. Duane Akina has just gotten the best out of him. And I think what's also exciting is that they continue to get better. Game in and game out, this defense is getting better. You watch them and you're like, okay. They correct issues. And that was something too, that with Akina, it was like, I kind of figured that would be the issue, that would be the case, that sooner he's too smart of a football man. Not only is he too smart of a football man, he's also somebody who you can just tell players get better under him. They respond under him. It's going to be fascinating to see how this all does unfold, but Arizona's got a gem in Duane Akina. You need to keep Duane Akina around as long as possible. He is obviously, he's somebody that Arizona can win a lot of football games with. And I think offensively, you're hoping that they can turn that corner. If Arizona can turn that corner and get to the point where their offense is good, I think the defense is going to be right there. Now, we said before the year that Arizona had to have a top 15 offense. And if it wasn't a top 15 offense, we were going to have a lot of concerns. Well, to put it mildly, it's not been a top 15 offense. But Akina, from the pass rush to putting players in position to now getting the contain, all kinds. It's just been impressive what he's been able to do. And I think what's also exciting about Arizona now is that you know that you're going to be able to hang on to this. Again, Texas Tech is a good offense. They put up a lot of points this season on some good teams, and Arizona more or less held them in check, especially in the second half. You got the late touchdown where I'm not sure that they weren't trying to let them score. But either way, Arizona's defense certainly has it figured out. But it's also tough to, in the Big 12, it's also tough to tell people that, oh, guess what? By the way, we need you to keep this team under 18 points or whatever the case may be. That is where it becomes a little bit frustrating, I think, for Arizona fans, for Duane Akina, for a lot of different people, because you're like, I need this. You need to be a little bit better, and that has obviously not been the case. But either way, defense A for Duane Akina. He's been a great hire. Now we're going to look ahead here a little bit and see what this all means, what this means for the coaching staff, all kinds of things. But first, LinkedIn. Okay. I know somebody that got a job through LinkedIn. You know somebody that got a job through LinkedIn. Heck, you might have gotten a job through LinkedIn. Again, that's because it works. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. When I've looked for jobs in the past, LinkedIn was the first place that I went. And get in line, Mike, because that's always been the first place. It's nationally known for a reason. So again, they want to make it easy for you. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege, and you'll be amazed. People see you really, really quickly, and they're like, okay, let's see what we can do here. So again, all kinds of stuff. LinkedIn jobs, linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now, what does this mean going forward for Arizona? This would be the most Arizona thing. Ever to actually win this game against BYU coming up, undefeated BYU. That's what Arizona does. They outperform expectations when there are no expectations, and then they underperform when there are expectations. That's why I think it's difficult for anybody to really kind of latch on, because, just when you think you've turned the corner, you have not turned the corner, and that's kind of where it's at. Now, Arizona, the one thing that's going to be fascinating here is where exactly do you get this? How can you fix this offense? Listen, there were some things. Noah Fafita obviously has not been great. He's missed some throws. He's got to be better. He's locked in on T-Mac too much. But the offense too, I'm not at all sure that there's any kind of plan, that there's any kind of synergy for what's going on, because you watch the offense and you're like, like I said, Brent Brennan saying that guys were running in the wrong direction. How are we in week 6 of the season and you're dealing with guys that are running in the wrong direction? There's no style. Everything is slow developing. I don't know how, like I said, I don't know how we are this far along and we are still dealing with these issues. And I think that's what's frustrating. That said, there still is talent there. Arizona should be better than they are. And I expect Arizona to beat BYU. That line is only, I think, 2.5, and that line screams that Arizona is going to win. So we'll see if that actually does play out. If Arizona wins, then you got Colorado coming up, and you're right back in the mix for everything. So in the Big 12, there are it's fascinating. In the Big 12, there are you just kind of know that everything is going to be a dogfight. When you think that a team is really, really good, they end up losing to a bottom feeder. And, maybe we're at the point that Texas Tech is as good a team as there is in the conference. You got somebody like UCF that stinks. You don't really know if there's a team out there that's going to be that. So Arizona's still got an opportunity, but that opportunity has to be, Arizona has got to get better offensively. And that's also something too this offseason. They have got to get a real offensive coordinator and a quarterbacks coach. Lyle Malvo, like I said, cool stuff. I like the story, but you've got to get a better offensive coordinator in here and a quarterbacks coach, because it feels like Noah's just trying to figure out everything himself. And when you're 20 years old, I think it's difficult to sit there and be like, well, I just got to figure everything out myself. That's just not going to ever really work. So again, a very disappointing performance for Arizona against Texas Tech. There's really no other way to put it. You can still got your goals in check, but you got to be able to fix the offense. A big shout out, though, to Duane Akina. Like I said, Duane Akina and the job that he's done with the defense has been admirable. He kept him in the game, obviously. And, but it's up to Arizona's offense. They've got to figure this one out. You got too much talent, and you got guys that are going to be leaving to the NFL in a year, so you got to be able to figure that one out. All right, now, tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the coaching staff and everything that comes into that. But as always, very much appreciate you making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day.